In this presentation, we will discuss providing reimbursable meals in the SFSP. All sponsoring organizations must meet the minimum meal pattern requirements for the SFSP at all operating sites. SFA sponsors may do so by utilizing the SFSP meal pattern or the more detailed NSLP SBP meal pattern. With the exception of SFA sponsors, all sponsors must utilize the SFSP meal pattern. Please note an indication of which meal pattern is being utilized at each operating site must be provided in the site's corresponding facility application. Non-SFA sponsors will have facility applications that auto-default to the SFSP meal pattern. Therefore, these are the meal pattern requirements that will be covered on upcoming slides. In October of 2018, USDA announced several policy memo rescissions that would impact the SFSP beginning with summer 2019. One of these rescissions in particular impacted flexibilities that had been in place for some years concerning the use or application of the offer versus serve option. The offer versus serve policy rescission applied to all sponsor types and was to be interpreted as follows. Without approval of an OVS waiver, only SFA sponsors would be permitted to utilize the offer versus serve option and only with the National School Lunch and School Breakfast Program meal patterns. What steps has the state agency taken on behalf of sponsors? In summer of 2019, the state agency applied for a statewide OVS waiver. Approval was granted by USDA on April 20th of 2019. This allowed the state agency to become the determining authority for sponsors who wish to utilize OVS with the SFSP meal pattern. Please note that as of the time of this recording, the state agency has applied and been approved for another statewide offer versus serve waiver for its 2020 SFSP. You will be able to select the option to participate in OVS within your online C&P facility level application or applications. The SFSP meal pattern for breakfast or lunch and supper requirements. Breakfast is an offering of 3 components and 3 items. This includes milk, vegetable or fruit, and grain or bread. For lunch or supper, there needs to be an offering of 4 components and 5 items. The components are milk, vegetable or fruit, grain and bread, and meat or meat alternate. For snack, we need to select 2 of the 4 components and at least the minimum portion size each day. These are vegetable or fruit, grain or bread, meat alternate, and milk. Sponsors may not serve 2 beverages as a reimbursable snack. If offering one component in the form of a beverage, such as milk, the other component must not also be a beverage, such as juice. To recap, a snack must contain a minimum of 2 food items in 2 different component groups in the minimum specified portion. Juice cannot be served when milk is served as the only other meal component. When offer versus serve implementation is to be utilized, please be reminded that offer versus serve is not permitted with snack meal service. When offer versus serve is offered as an option with lunch and/or supper, a child may decline 1 or 2 out of max food items contained in the reimbursable meal. With the SFSP meal pattern, there's no requirement for a child to take half a cup of fruit or vegetable. When offered as an option at breakfast, the menu planner must adjust the planned menu to include a 4th item or menu offering, which can be in the form of another fruit or vegetable offering, another grain offering, or a meat or meat alternate in its minimum required portion. In cases where offer versus serve is utilized at breakfast, with 4 items offered, a child may only decline 1 item. Offer versus serve is commonly cited as a finding on SFSP reviews and technical assistance visits. Often, site staff do not have a clear understanding of the requirements. Please contact the state agency if you feel that additional administrative and/or site-level training is needed. General rules for the SFSP meal pattern. All participating children must be offered all required meal components as per the meal pattern. Otherwise, those meals cannot be claimed, with a possible exception of diet orders. All meal components must be eaten on-site unless you have requested and received permission from the state agency to allow children to take items off-site. This is because congregate meals are a program requirement. Field trips are one exception where children may consume reimbursable meals off-site, provided that the organization has given the state agency prior notification and that all safety and sanitation requirements are met. And lastly, all children must first be provided with a meal before any adults may receive a meal, including kitchen staff. SFSP field trip notification. Sponsors must notify the state agency anytime there will be a change in the approved meal schedule at a site. In the case of a scheduled field trip where SFSP meals will be consumed by children off-site, written notification should be sent in advance to the SFSP coordinator, preferably by email, to shanna.leger@la.gov. The same minimum meal pattern requirements must be adhered to if the sponsor wishes to claim the meals for reimbursement. Extra caution should be exercised to ensure that food is properly stored and maintained. Meals must be served only at the times approved in the most current online facility application. Any changes to your approved serving times or average daily participation levels must be submitted online and approved prior to implementing the changes at the site level. Recycling returned milk or any other discarded item from a served tray for a future meal service is not allowable by the Louisiana Sanitary Code. If you are delivering meals to any sites, you must maintain satellite account forms and reports. Refer to SFSP Memos section of the website for this prototype document. Here is an example of a satellite account form. Areas shaded in white are to be completed by the driver. Areas shaded in gray are to be completed by the site representative receiving the meals at the time of receipt. A completed example of this form is provided in the Documenting Your SFSP section of the trainings. The following restrictions apply when meals are delivered to SFSP sites. Meals must be delivered no more than an hour prior to the beginning of meal service, or there must be facilities on site for storing food at proper temperatures. This is addressed in the SFSP Federal Regulations at 7 CFR Part 225. There is a maximum of 200 sites for all sponsor types. No sponsor can serve more than the maximum total average daily participation of 50,000 children. The state agency may impose stricter maximums on the number of facilities and/or ADPs as necessary. SFSP Meal Component Information. Milk component. Milk must be pasteurized, fluid, and with vitamins A and D enriched. It can be whole, skim, low-fat, flavored, or unflavored. It must be offered with each reimbursable breakfast, lunch, and/or supper, but it is an optional component with snack so long as 2 full other component options are offered. It cannot be counted toward meal requirements when used in recipes. If following the SFSP meal pattern, a choice of milk is not required. You don't need to offer, for instance, both fat-free chocolate and 1% white. Do not freeze milk to be used in the SFSP. Here are some non-creditable milk items: half and half, cream, ice cream or milk, puddings or custards, non-fat dry milk, cheese, yogurt, evaporated milk, powdered cocoa mixes, commercial milkshakes, cream soups, imitation milk, and sour cream. These items are not creditable towards SFSP meals. Meat and meat alternates. Lunch and supper meals must contain a creditable meat or meat alternate. For lunch and supper, the edible portion must weigh at least 2 ounces without bone. Breakfast is not required to contain a meat or meat alternate. Luncheon meats and frankfurters must be all beef or all meat with no byproducts or extenders. Commercially prepared yogurt, cheese, cheese spreads, and cheese foods are creditable meat alternates when used in the correct quantities. Meat, fish, poultry, and eggs, such as beef, chicken, fish, ham, pork, turkey, and eggs. Cheese, such as American, cheddar, cottage, mozzarella, Parmesan, ricotta, or Swiss. Dry beans and peas. Nuts and seeds. Commercially produced yogurt, plain or flavored, unsweetened or sweetened at any fat content. And alternate protein products, such as products mixed or made into food items such as ground beef patties or tuna salad. These are examples of allowable meat alternates. Here are some non-creditable meat alternate items: bacon or salt pork, liverwurst, imitation seafood, ham hocks, neck bones, beef jerky, imitation cheese, cheese products, cream cheese, frozen or homemade yogurt, tofu, or coconut. Please note that commercially prepared combination foods, such as pizza, burritos, or chicken nuggets, must have documentation from the manufacturer, either a child nutrition or CN label or a product formulation statement, to substantiate compliance with required quantities. The fruit or vegetable component. 2 or more different vegetables or fruits must be served for lunch and supper, and the combined serving must be at least 3/4 of a cup. Cooked dried beans or peas can be counted as either a meat alternate or as a vegetable, but not at both in one meal. The minimum countable portion of a vegetable or fruit item is 1/8 of a cup. Juice must be 100% full strength. At lunch and supper, no more than 1/2 of the total requirements may be met with full strength juice. Sponsors may not serve 2 forms of the same fruit or vegetable in the same meal. For example, an orange and orange juice would not be an acceptable combination, nor would an apple and applesauce be acceptable. Here are some more allowable fruits and veggies: whole fruits or vegetables, cooked vegetables, full-strength 100% fruit or vegetable juice, cooked or canned fruit, thawed frozen fruit, or dried fruits. Please note that fruit within yogurt, whether blended, mixed, or on top, cannot be credited toward the fruit requirement. Extra fruit, provided as a separate component on the line, can be credited, however, if served with yogurt. Here are some non-creditable fruit and veggie items: fruit-flavored gelatin, fruit sherbet, hominy, fruit drinks, fruit punch, sports drinks, fruit breads, powdered drinks, juice beverages, pickle relish, potato chips, ketchup, and fruit jams and jellies. These items cannot count toward your SFSP. Under the SFSP meal pattern, each grain bread serving must contain a minimum of 14.75 grams of enriched or whole grain meal or flour, bran, and/or germ. Note that the NSLP SPP meal pattern requires 16 grams of grain to credit as 1 serving. With the SFSP meal pattern, cooked enriched, white, or whole grain, rich rice, macaroni, or noodle products may be used to meet the grain bread requirement. 1 serving is equal to 1/2 cup. To SFAs who utilize the SFSP meal pattern in the summer months, please note that for determining crediting of grains, you will be using the old bread grains chart utilized several years ago for SFS. You can refer to the following link to view the SFSP grain bread crediting. Note that the minimum serving size column, which is the last column to the right, is the correct one for use within the SFSP meal pattern. Minimum quantities to be offered for grains and breads vary depending on the specific type of grains and breads being offered. This is why it's important to refer to the grain bread chart referenced on previous slides to determine whether commercially prepared items such as bagels, muffins, or waffles meet the minimum portion size for meals served. For example, one bagel weighing 25 grams would credit as one full serving of grain bread, whereas for a muffin, it would take 50 grams to credit as the same for one full serving. Here is a screenshot of a portion of the grain bread chart. Note that there are a total of 9 groups in which the items could fall under, labeled groups A through I. Also note that the column we're using is the minimum serving size for Group A on the far right-hand column. Here's a calculation example. If the menu planner wishes to offer a frankfurter on a bun with the lunch meal, would a 30-gram bun be large enough to credit as one serving of grain bread? The answer is yes. According to Group B, we need at least 25 grams of a hot dog bun to equal one serving. Therefore, a 30-gram bun exceeds that 25-gram requirement. Here's some tips for determining crediting of a grain bread. Step 1. Determine the portion size to be served as indicated on the plan menu. In this case, we'll assume the serving size is one bun. Step 2. Review the planned serving against the product's nutrition facts label to determine the weight of the product per planned serving. In this case, one bun, which is our planned serving, is equal to 45 grams. Step 3. Determine which category this item falls under on the grain breads chart, which is the screenshot of the group can be found on the previous slide. A hot dog bun is listed under Group B. This group requires 25 grams to equal one serving. Step 4. Divide your product's weight against the weight required to produce one full serving. Here we have 25 grams divided by 45 grams equals 1.8 servings, or 1.75. Note that credible yield of grain breads is always rounded down to the nearest 0.25. Here's example 2. Step 1. Determine the portion size to be served as indicated on a plan menu. In this case, we'll assume the serving size is one bagel. Step 2. Review the planned serving size against the product's nutrition facts label to determine the weight of the product per planned serving. In this case, one bagel, which is our planned serving, is equal to 85 grams. Step 3. Determine which category this item falls under in the grain spread chart. The screenshot can be found 2 slides back. A bagel is also listed under Group B. This group requires 25 grams to equal one serving. Step 4. Divide your product's weight against the weight required to produce one full serving. So 25 grams divided by 85 grams equals 3.4 servings. We're going to round down to the nearest 0.25, so that will be equal to 3.25 grain bread servings. The grain bread component. We can have whole grain or whole wheat products, such as bagels, breads, cereals that are ready to eat, crackers, pita bread, rolls, noodles or pasta, whole corn tortillas, brown rice, buckwheat, oatmeal, and quinoa. We have enriched grains like bagels, cereals that are ready to eat, cornbread, muffins, crackers, tortillas, noodles or pasta, pita bread, rolls, wheat bread or white bread, enriched rice, and enriched or fortified cereal. The serving size for cooked cereals such as oatmeal or grits must be at least 1/2 cup to equal one serving of bread. The serving size of dry cereal must be at least 3/4 cup or 1 ounce to equal one serving of bread. Coffee cake, sweet rolls, or donuts made with whole grain or enriched flour can be used as a bread component for breakfast or snack only, not in lunch or supper. Here are some non-creditable grain or bread items. Tapioca pudding, potatoes, potato chips, or hominy. These items are not creditable in the SFSP. Serving larger portions in the SFSP. Offering portions of foods that are larger than minimum required serving sizes are allowable within the SFSP meal pattern, as there are no maximum limits on any food components. If chosen widely, additional foods can increase the variety of nutrients offered, such as extra vegetables, fruit, or whole grains. Please note that if a program chooses to purchase additional food with SFSP funds, the food must be creditable under the meal pattern requirements. One exception of this would be for condiments and spreads. These items, when offered with creditable food offerings, can be purchased with program funds. Children under 6 years of age. State agencies may authorize sponsors to follow the CACFP meal pattern requirements found at 7 CFR 226.20 for infants and children under 6 years old, which include smaller serving sizes than are indicated in the SFSP meal pattern. The sponsor must be able to ensure that each age group is receiving the appropriate minimum serving sizes indicated in the CACFP meal pattern. Additionally, food should always be of a texture and consistency that is appropriate for the age and development of the children being served. If interested, please be sure to contact the state agency prior to initiating this flexibility in your SFSP. Adult meals. At each sponsor's discretion, meals may be served to persons other than eligible children, such as program and non-program adults. However, this may only be done after all participating children have been offered a reimbursable meal. Program adults are staff members involved at the site in the preparation of serving meals. Meals are generally provided free of charge to these individuals. These meals cannot be claimed for reimbursement, but the cost of providing these free meals is an allowable program operating cost. Non-program adults are adults not directly related to meal preparation or service. They may be served meals, but the cost of the meal must be covered by the adult or by some other funding source other than SFSP. When or if serving adult meals, the adult meals must be recorded in the appropriate category as program or non-program adults on the daily meal count form. The counts must be maintained separately from the reimbursable meals. It's at the sponsor's discretion as to whether adult meals will be served. Any money collected for the sale of non-program adult meals must be deposited into the SFSP nonprofit account for use in the program. Sponsors must clearly convey to their site staff whether non-program adult meals will be sold in their SFSP, and if sold, what the process will be for collecting funds and turning the funding over to the central office. Meals served to adults are never reimbursable. The suggested price to charge non-program adults is normally your cost to produce the meal. Be sure to include the cost of commodities. SFSP funds cannot be used to subsidize the cost of non-program adult meals. A la carte items and the SFSP. These items may be sold by SFSP sponsors or sites during meal service. However, program and non-program, a la carte being non-program components, of the food service must be tracked separately, accounting for the receipt, obligation, and expenditure of all SFSP funds. The sponsor must maintain accounting records documenting proper cost allocation between program and non-program components of its food service operation, and the state agency must ensure through the review process that all SFSP reimbursements are used solely for conducting nonprofit food service operations. Farm to summer. Because summertime is a time of agricultural abundance, USDA strongly encourages SFSP sponsoring organizations to purchase locally. There are many benefits to purchasing locally. Some include increased participation by improving the quality and appeal of meals. Schools can get started for the upcoming school year with efforts to source locally during the summer months, testing out recipes using local foods and creating menus that kids will love. Regional producers benefit from a reliable outlet for their products in summer months. And kids and teens access fresh, nutritious meals and experiential learning activities at meal sites, staying nourished and active while school is out. If you want more information on Farm to Summer, it can be found at the links below.